Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. Today's video, I am continuing my series on ranking all the Disney animation movies. I am kind of now in the middle of my list. I'm doing number 30 through 26 on this video. So yeah, right in the middle here. This is actually getting to movies I actually quite I enjoy. I don't love these movies, but they're movies I give light recommends to. 3 out of 5 stars is what I call it. Yeah, so this is actually the movies I think are actually pretty decent or worth watching at least once. Yeah, on my list. So yeah, glad to get back to it. It's been a little while since I've done YouTube. It feels like because I've just been crazy busy with work. I just picked some extra shifts up and been working so much. I'm so tired because I've been working the last 3 nights, and I actually had my Thanksgiving last weekend. Last Friday, I went to my parents' house, so I was busy traveling as well, and so I got a couple days off, so hopefully I get some YouTube videos out there. Hope you enjoy it, like this one, my 30 through 26 on Disney's animation ranking. So let's get to it. Hello everybody, hope everybody's doing well here on a Tuesday night. Yeah, getting back to this Disney list. Trying to get through this along with several other lists I've been going through. Don't know if I'll finish this by the end of the year, but sorry, I think I have a little bit of a cold as well, unfortunately, because I've been working so much. But yeah, let's get to number 30 on my list of the 62 Disney animation movies that have been out. Number 30 is a recent one. This is Raya and the Last Dragon. This came out, like I said, last 3 years or 4 years. I remember coming out. I don't know if this was a Disney Plus one or if this was in the movie theater, but that's on Disney. I remember seeing it on Disney Plus when it came out. Yeah, this was again a decent movie. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. I don't remember. I've only seen it once, and I haven't gone back to rewatch it, so I don't remember a lot about it except that I came away overall kind of enjoying it. Overall, I thought, yeah, it was a pretty decent movie. It had a pretty cool. It's kind of a fantasy story set in kind of South Asian cultures, basically, which I think was kind of cool. That's a different style, different culture we haven't really gone to in Disney. It's the South Asian, like the Vietnamese and stuff like that. And it's overall this fantasy kind of action film, which I kind of like the fantasy elements and the world building of this fantasy world. And the different, I think there's like these different tribes that are going to war against each other, if I remember right. And Raya is like the last of her family that's, I forget what she's trying to protect the last dragon, I think, or something like that. Yeah, it's mostly a kind of more serious movie. It's an action-oriented movie. Overall, I thought the animation, I remember, was pretty darn good. Story was pretty decent overall, because there's some, there's like the main character, Raya, and then there's another villainous female character who I think they were friends, but they came from different tribes or something like that, and they were warring against each other. So there's an interesting story there. And I actually kind of like the dragon character. We do find this dragon character who's the last dragon, played by Awkwafina. Now, I complain a lot about Awkwafina. I feel like she's she's like in every movie. I feel like every movie I see, she's in it. And I'm like, what is Hollywood's obsession with Awkwafina? She's like in everything, including animation. They love getting her for any animation voice. They love getting Awkwafina. She's really blown up as an actress in the last 5-10 years, whatever. Lately, I think she's been terrible. She's got an annoying voice. I don't know. I just think she's overdone. Lately, she was in Kung Fu Panda 4. She was terrible. And The Little Mermaid, she was really terrible. I don't get Awkwafina. I say that I thought she was fine in this role. Like, I thought the dragon character was a good character. It was the best character in the movie. Kind of enjoyable. Had some comedy with it. Definitely the best character. There are some other side characters that weren't that interesting, or I think it's maybe the worst part of the movie is like they didn't do a good job of coming up with other different interesting characters, because there's other characters that are kind of Raya gets this group together to help her, basically. And I wish they could have gotten a little better characters, more memorable characters, more interesting storylines. But the best part is just Raya and the dragon, their dialogue together, all that. And like I said, there's some good action sequences as well, and a cool fantasy element. So yeah, it's a fine movie. I haven't gone back to watch it, and it doesn't interest me probably enough to go back. But still, it gets like a light recommend here. Number 30, Raya and the Last Dragon. Number 29, this might be a little bit of a surprise. I feel like this gets a lot of hate. A lot of people don't put this pretty low on their list, but I kind of enjoyed it, and that is Dinosaur here at number 29, which I want to say came out in the very early 2000s. It was kind of a pinnacle point for Disney where they're still doing 2D animation, and and all these other animation companies were coming out with some really great CGI animation. Of course, Pixar being the biggest one. It was the first one to do it, and came out with all these Toy Stories and so forth that were making so much money. And then DreamWorks started doing it with like the Shrek movies, and those were making a lot of money. And so Disney animation was late to the party a little bit of changing from 2D animation to more of the CGI animation. And this was kind of their first movie to deal with CGI animation. It's not great compared to what they would get to. You know, animation's gotten quite a bit better since then. But overall, actually, when I first saw this movie, I remember back in the day, I remember not like caring for it. I thought it was kind of a boring movie, and it's probably pretty towards the end of my list. But I don't know, rewatching this movie lately for this list, basically, I watched this maybe a year or two ago, and when I was trying to make this list together, and I surprisingly was kind of like, I kind of enjoyed this movie. Mostly the main character was, in the whole kind of idea of the movie, is the main character is a dinosaur, but gets separated from his family and gets raised by these like monkeys anyways, and so his family is these monkeys, and he doesn't really know how to be a dinosaur or whatever, and so then he finds some dinosaurs, and they're all migrating because the ice age maybe is happening or something. Anyway, so they have to migrate to this one area, and the leader is a real jerk leader that doesn't care about the people, leaves stragglers behind to die. And I love the main character because he's such a nice character. I guess I'll just call him he for this sake, but he, because I can't remember the names of the characters, but he stays behind, helps the stragglers, the older dinosaur characters that the leader was like, we're going to let the weak just die, you know, they're not important, you know, and he's like, no, we got to protect the weak. And so he actually helps the weak so they don't die. The older dinosaurs. And anyway, so I don't know, I kind of got endeared to the character when I watched it again. I was like, wow, this is a really great character. I love his monkey brother that he grows up with. Is a very funny character. He has some fun moments. Also, there's like these, they're not I don't think they're Tyrannosaurus Rex dinosaurs, but they're kind of designed kind of like T-Rexes, and they're actually pretty scary at times. Like I thought, wow, this is kind of a scary villain. And they get attacked a couple times by these, like I think there's a couple of them, and they have to go into a cave to get away and all this. So I thought pretty good job actually animation wise with those characters, and really made me feel fear for our main character, that they're in danger. So I thought they did some good jobs there, and then how he has to defy the leader of this migration group, and he has to stand up to this, to protect the herd basically. So I thought there were some good moments here, and way more better than I remember it being. So I'm going to say it, Dinosaur, not a bad movie here at number 29 on my list. Number 28, this is another fairly recent movie. One of the better animation movies. It seems like Disney animation has done pretty bad lately. Like, if you saw my list before, like a lot of the more recent movies have been towards the end of my list, have been some of the worst animation movies that we've come out with. The best one lately, I would say, is this one. That's Encanto. Again, this feels like this came out just in the last maybe 4 years or so. It's a musical, because we kind of went away from some musicals, I feel like, and it was nice to get a good musical again, some good musical numbers. Encanto, interesting fantasy story again, and it involves this girl from this what do you call it, Latino family, who all have magical powers. They're all born with magical powers, basically, except for our main girl, who is born with magical powers, and so she's seen as an outcast in her family, kind of. And so it's kind of interesting character to follow. Like, she has a lot of doubts and a lot of, why is she not worthy enough to get these magical powers? And anyway, so it's actually pretty fun. The characters are pretty fun, I should say. I love the different magical powers that they have and how they use them. My favorite is I think I don't know, it was a brother or a cousin that shift changes, and so he uses the shift change powers to prank people. That's probably my favorite character. Pretty funny. And they talk about Bruno, the Uncle Bruno, who could see the future, but the future was always, very, I want to say pessimistic or very, dour, like bad things are happening in the future. So he kept predicting bad things are happening in the future and nobody liked him. And so the story kind of revolves around, that character being an outcast because of his powers and how the main character is trying to help him and all that. Anyway, so some decent stuff there. Music wise, pretty good. Obviously, we don't talk about Bruno is a killer song. Love that song. As soon as I heard that song, I was like, this song is amazing. It is so catchy. We don't talk about Bruno, no, no. Ah, so good. And some of the duets that they do in that song definitely should have won Best Song of the Year. So stupid that they didn't even put that out as Best Song of the Year. It would have won. They put out this other song that was in Spanish, and it, of course, didn't win. I think the weak part of this movie is that it doesn't really have a really satisfying ending, and doesn't really have a satisfying villain. Like the whole time, I was like, who's the villain? I guess the grandma is the villain. Not really, but she's kind of a jerk grandma. She's really kind of a jerk to her granddaughter in the movie. I didn't like that character at all. And then the house is kind of alive, and I don't know. And I don't know, I didn't quite understand the ending. I didn't quite understand what was going on there. And so it lacked a really good villainous character that you need to overcome. I think that could have made the movie more interesting. Um, but yeah, like I said, I think animation actually was beautiful. I actually really love the animation on this movie. There's some scenes with flowers that are really beautiful, like colorful flowers. I remember there were some really cool moments like that. So I think music-wise, pretty darn good. Not one of my favorite musical animation movies, but still a pretty solid, I think, musical. Uh, some fun characters. I think it just lacks a good ending to it and a good villain. But anyway, so Encanto at number 28 on my list. Number 27, we're going back a little farther, I think in the 70s, I believe. And this is the Aristocats, which is a funny animation movie from that period where we follow this mother cat and her three kids who get kidnapped by the butler of this rich lady that owns them because the rich lady is giving all her possessions to her cats when she dies. And the butler, I guess, felt like he should get it because he's been a loyal butler for his life or whatever, for most of his life. And so he feels slighted, so he decides to kidnap the kittens and I guess maybe ransom them to get money from the female owner, kind of the older rich lady. And anyways, and so then they get lost, and then they meet this street cat named O'Malley, who kind of teaches or kind of helps them out, and they kind of follow him around, and they meet other cats, and he's kind of this. And again, it kind of reminds me of Lady and Tramp a little bit. Like you have the very sophisticated, house cat, who's like this kind of beautiful white fur, and then you got O'Malley, who's kind of the, like I said, street cat. He doesn't have an owner. He lives outside. He probably eats out of garbage. It's not a sophisticated character, but a very fun character and very charming, of course, and also more of, I would say like more of a ladies' man, lady cat man, or whatever I don't want to call it. And all this. So I love the contrast between the two characters, and it's a really fun movie. Last time I watched this, I was like, wow, this movie is actually really good. I really quite enjoy this movie more than I expected, anyways, and that's why it's already down here at 27. Doesn't seem very high, but I think it's a very solid movie that I wouldn't mind watching again. Actually, I would almost say we're getting to like 3.5 probably territory here, where I'm getting a 3.5 star probably for this and on forward, but which means it's a very solid movie that I wouldn't mind going back to see. Definitely would recommend anybody to see this if they haven't seen this. But I love O'Malley the cat, O'Malley the alley cat. What a great character, so fun. The voice acting is so good. The same actor I think does like Baloo and the Jungle Book, whatever, and has done a lot of different characters in Disney. Really great voice actor, and again, very funny. I love when he takes them to the other cats, you know, and of course he had that "Everybody Wants to Be a Cat" scene. Really great musical number, and I even like the little kittens, the brother and I think it's a boy and two girls or something like that, or a girl, or maybe it's two boys and a girl. I forget now, but the sibling kittens are pretty funny at times too. I always love the line of, the female kitten saying, "No, I'm a lady," or something like that, and the one of the boy cats says, "You're not a lady, you're just a sister." Makes me laugh. I have two sisters, so I'm like, yeah, that's pretty funny. Um, yeah, and I even like the romance. There's actually a little bit of romance between O'Malley and the main uh, female cat. And actually, I like the character change of the O'Malley's kind of this. To me, it's like O'Malley's like that guy's like I'm never settling down. You know, I'm just gonna play the field kind of. And then we find him actually enjoying being kind of a father figure to the kittens and being more of a, again, I'm speaking human terms, like being kind of almost like a husband or something, being more of a settle down. At the end, he does actually, I'm spoiling it, but at the end, he ends up with, the girl and the kittens. And so he does settle down. So it's kind of a nice character arc for that character where he goes from the alley cat to being a house cat and being a kind of a husband father, in the sense. So I like all that. But yeah, there's so many other great moments in this. Great voice acting. It's a fun movie. 27 Aristocats here. And I'm going to finish this list with number 26, which is actually a childhood favorite. I have a lot of nostalgia for this. I used to love this movie as a kid, and that is Sword in the Stone. Yeah, this is one of my all-time favorite as a kid, because I actually had this on like a VHS tape my parents had, and I didn't have a lot of these, but I had a couple of these animation movies on VHS, and Dumbo was one of them. I talked about that, I think, the last video. I had Dumbo, so Dumbo was always my favorite of the classic period, of the golden age, was always Dumbo, because that was the one I had on VHS, and I would watch the heck out of it. And Sword of Stone, the same thing. I had a VHS, so I watched that constantly. Like I mean, I'm not kidding. I saw it like 100 times as a kid. I just watched it about every day. And I really loved it. I think it was a really fun movie. Of course, if you don't know, it's based on King Arthur as a kid, and he's just kind of an orphan squire kid, works for, a knight at a castle. And then you have Merlin, who's such a great character. Love Merlin, one of my favorite Disney characters. But Merlin sees greatness in him, and so meets him, and then wants to like train him. You don't know exactly what he's going to be, what does he mean? What's going to happen in his future exactly? You don't know until the end, but he knows something. So he's kind of goes on these adventures and kind of like trains him, I guess, in life lessons. So he'll be good in the future, and all that. He also has this owl, which I'm forgetting the name, but he was very sarcastic and very grumpy. Lots of fun dialogue between those two characters, and then there's so much magic. I love the magic that Merlin makes things come to life. And as a kid, I mean, gosh, I love anything that had magic in it. So I think I've really clung on to that. And some really fun sequences. Like I said, some of my favorite, like I said, when he makes things inanimate objects come alive, like when they first meet and he has to put all of he has like a little house, whatever, and he has to put all of his stuff into a mat, somehow he fits everything into this bag. And so he does this little song, and kind of conducts them like an orchestra, and he has them like stand in line as they go into his bag. It's a very fun sequence. There's another one where Arthur has to clean dishes, and so Merlin needs him for something, so he makes all the dishes wash themselves as he takes Arthur away. Another very fun thing. And then he does these things where they turn them into animals. Like there's this whole fish sequence where they're fish and he's teaching them how to swim, which makes no sense. Why would he teach them that? I don't know, but it's fun. They're fish and they get attacked by, an evil fish, a big fish that's trying to eat them. And then there's one sequence where they are squirrels for some reason, and they're jumping across trees. And I'm sure, again, don't know why they need to learn that. And then they come across two other squirrels who fall in love with them, and they're trying to get away from these two female squirrels. And then he's a bird at one sequence, and he's teaching him how to fly. Again, why? I don't know. But it's fun, especially as a kid, to go, oh man, what would it be like to be a squirrel? What would it be like to be a fish? What would it be like to be a bird. I think it was just fun to kind of imagine all that. And then probably the best sequence, I think anybody would agree, was the wizard duel where he comes across as a mademoiselle or something, this female evil like female wizard, witch, I guess you say, this female witch, and the female witch kind of comes across Arthur and kind of kidnaps him, and Merlin goes to save him, and so so they're going to do a wizard's duel to get the kid or whatever. And that's a fun sequence because they have to, the wizard duel is they turn themselves into different animals and then they fight it out as like these animals that they turn into. And it's a, you know, kind of a chess match of a duel. Very fun stuff there. Yeah, great stuff. And I love the ending. The ending's actually the ending was almost kind of emotional for me as a kid. Even I mean, I got kind of goosebumps. I know I'm spoiling a lot, but you know, the whole Arthur story is that he takes the sword. Well, the whole thing is the sword of stone. The sword is, no one can take the sword out of the stone except for the true king. And so they don't have a true king, I guess. And so people all over try to take the sword out of the stone, but they can't. And then Arthur, who's just a kid, just accidentally comes across it and he pulls the sword out of the stone. And this, you know, light shines on him and, you know, really cool stuff. And then everybody's like, where'd you get that sword? And he's like, oh, I just pulled it out of the stone. They're like, what? You mean the sword, the stone that means you're the king? And they're like, and so they go back and they have him do it again. And then I love that sequence. The music that comes in, the light that shines on him. To me, it's just a great moment of like, as a kid, it was like one of the first great cinematic moments where I was like, oh man, that's why I love movies. I love these moments, you know, of heroic victory, of, you know, the good guy who everybody kind of bullies, you know, pulls out the sword, and now all the people that bullied him and looked down on him now have to bow to him. I don't know. I always thought that was a great moment and kind of emotional a little bit. Not super emotional, but it was like, felt really, really great moment, feel good moment. Because you do like the Arthur character a lot anyways. Obviously, of course, he's just a kid, but the whole idea is that he's going to be Arthur, the legendary knight of the Round Table in the future, you know, be the king. Well, I should say King Arthur, I should say, not Knight Arthur, King Arthur. He's going to be King Arthur, you know, this great mythical king, whatever. Anyway, so it's a cool story overall. Really love the characters. Yeah, it's a movie I'll go back to many times and still enjoy it quite a bit. So that's me. I don't think other people like that movie as much as me, but again, it just holds a special place in my heart. So that's why I get Sword and Stone here at number 26 on my list. And that's the end of my list today. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to my thoughts here. Please comment, what are your thoughts on these 5 movies? Do you enjoy them as much as I do? Love to read any comments. But besides that, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for liking it. Thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate it all.